All right, so what I want to talk about is the way I've got the SY-1000 set up. So I guess maybe just to quickly talk about how we operate within the MIDI Guitar 3 interface. So up here I've got Boss Tone Studio for the SY-1000 and an instance of MIDI Guitar. Now this has already been set up, but I'll just go over it again. I set the tracker to Hex, and I'm going to go into the audio settings. SY-1000 is the input source. I'm monitoring with the iConnect, just with my headphones at the moment. I've got the channel 1 to 8 selected for Hex pickups, and I leave that on even though we're not going to be doing any intercommunication between the standalone and a DAW, but that's on. And these, so as I said, iConnect for my monitoring, and 128 buffer size, and automatic threading, and apply. Okay, now this is going to, it's kept my patch. It's funny, sometimes it reverts to the original patch, but I guess I didn't actually change anything in the settings there, just reapplied. Okay, so we can see here, make this a little bit bigger. In the MIDI Guitar 3 Hex settings, we've got this configuration button. So all of these are set up correctly. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 relate to the Hex channels of the SY-1000 or a GM800 or a GP-10 if you're using that. And that indicates the pitches. Okay, now you can select what channels, whether channels 1 and 2 are active or whether channels 3 through 8 are being aggregated and fed as the DI guitar signal if you've got any just effects plugins, like I've got an amp simulator here, which we'll get to in a second. Now in this particular preset here, I have an amp simulator and I have a synth and I have an empty chain there. Okay, so I'm going to just jump over to the SY-1000 now and give a quick discussion on how this is set up. Now, I consider the SY-1000 a kind of Swiss Army knife of guitar signals. So what are the great things you can do with it? You have access to all these alternate tunings. You've got different model guitars. You've got multiple guitars available at any given time. You've got virtual pickups if you want that. You can also control certain aspects of the guitar tone, like I've got an expression pedal connected here which controls the volume, so we've got a built-in volume pedal here. You can also have a whammy pedal built in if that's something you're into. And also, because of the way the SY-1000 is configured with its hardware switches, you also have access to other useful functions. Like you can change presets on this bottom row here. You can see the 3 red switches and the blue switch. 1, 2, 3 are allocated to instruments 1, 2, and 3, which are guitar modeling or synthesizer instruments. And channel 4 is allocated to the normal guitar or the DI guitar signal. So you can engage or disengage them. And on the top row, the way I've got it configured is so that I can use the yellow buttons to step up and down through presets. In the MIDI Guitar 3 preset list, Control 1 is for turning on and off the alternate tuning. So you can see up here, if I go into instrument 1, alternate tune, if I hit this button, turns on and off. Instrument on, off. Yeah, so that's all very useful. And then Control 2 is allocated to tap tempo. And because the SY-1000 can output MIDI clock, that's useful if you're using a DAW or some other audio application which receives MIDI clock for syncing audio effects and whatnot. So that's the SY-1000 in a nutshell. But let's just talk about specific audio settings. The input settings are where you set up your GK input sensitivities. The distances from your bridge to the GK pickup itself, and also configure the settings of the regular input. Okay, so I have multiple configurations here, but I'm just going to use this one today, which I've set up for MIDI Guitar 3. So I've pretty much left it as is. Let's start with the normal input. That's the default settings. I haven't adjusted those at all. and then for the GK pickup, when you open up a default or initialized set, you can see it gives you these settings. As far as I can tell, that is way too hot a signal to use, and so I've rolled that back to these settings here. So for string 6, 30, 5, 4, 3, 2 are all 30, and string 1 is just bumped up a little bit to 50. And because it seems to have the weakest output. I think I use 9 to 42 gauge strings on my main guitar. So yeah, that's the settings there. Okay, there's some other key places that you need to have a look. So output settings, that's actually a bit of a moot point at the moment. We'll see why. If I go maybe directly to the USB settings, I've got these set, the main mix level to 50 and the out level to 50. I've had them set higher and lower before, and this to me seems to be just like a kind of unity, if you will. I have this set to direct off because I'm not using the SY-1000 as my monitoring source, and because I'm not listening to, I'm not processing any actual guitar sounds through, or I'm not processing any effects or amp sims through the SY-1000 itself. So that's just off, and I'm getting the audio from the other audio interface. So yeah, I've got this set to direct off, main out, sub out. So if we go back for a moment to the main grid I've got here, you can see that my sub outputs, which are allocated as like the main USB outputs, are split so that the left side is getting all the signals from the instruments over here, and the right side is getting the magnetic pickup, the normal signal directly from the guitar's internal pickups. Okay, so that's on the right. Now we'll jump back to here. I guess the sub-out level could be important, but that's just at 100. USB settings, we've already looked at that. MIDI settings, not important. That's the key stuff there. Looking back at the main grid, the normal guitar signal is also set to 100. I've got the foot volume attached here. There's no noise suppressor active. The send return is active in case I want to try and add something into the loop, but I haven't actually got around to doing that. In the past, I had an EHX freeze pedal in there, but I sold it because I started using Helix Native, which has a really good sustain effect in it. That's at 100, and then as far as the model guitars go, I'm only using instrument 1 at the moment, and it's just set up like a 7-string tuning and baritone tuning down to a low B. In this common section, the instrument level is set to 50. Any higher is too hot, I think. I've been through and checked all the levels here, so it seems that the level from the normal guitar now matches pretty closely with the level for the model guitar. This also doesn't have a noise suppressor active. The amplifier is turned off. This is just purely to get the guitar modeling. The guitar selected is an LP, Les Paul, rear pickup, just because that's probably closest to what my actual guitar is. Amps off, noise suppressors off, and there's no EQ active. So it's a very simple setup. But just to get all the levels balanced, that's the key setting. So normal, 100. Yeah, that's at 50. So let's jump back over here. Now, if you open up this hello. That wasn't what I expected. Okay, I think we can resize that. We'll just make it medium. So this is good. So, all right. There is some noise present. Now, the question is, do you want to try and deal with the noise in the SY-1000, or do you want to try and deal with it in your plugin? So it's possible to deal with it in the plugin. You could just use the noise gate. $64 seems like a, oh, no, it should be minus. Yeah, that seems like a pretty that's a pretty healthy signal. I'm going to save that. Of course, if I take that off, it's going to be noise. And then, of course, with the synth side, fine, okay. But, and I've just got that 0, 0, and my gate's at 5. You can see, I'm not sure if that's a bug. Sometimes the gate indicator gets stuck up. I've seen it up as high as here, and it just sits there. It's as simple as rolling it down and rolling it back up, and it clears it. But anyway, the next thing I just want to point out is that if you are looking at the outputs here, so let's just compare. So this is the that's the aggregated hex signal there. This is going to be, well, that's not going to come out because that string's not. Okay, so that signal seems pretty fine. That's fine. So that's output 1 with the modeled guitar down a perfect fourth. Okay, and then we've got our DI guitar coming in on channel 2. So that's the normal input. So you've got some options there, and they all seem pretty balanced to me, and all of them, the gate's working across the board for all of them. So I think that's a pretty decent kind of starting position. So yeah, so there it is. That's just the settings for the SY-1000. Now let's mess things up and see what we can do with the GP-10. Okay, time to tackle the GP-10. Actually, I already tackled the GP-10, but due to a nasty little sample rate mismatch, all the audio was messed up. So I'm going to go over it again. But that's probably a good thing because there was a bit of messing around, refamiliarizing myself with the Boss Tone Studio for GP-10 interface and how to use that to edit the device. So basically what I've tried to do is recreate the setup of the SY-1000 that I just went through previously in the GP-10. Now, I think it's worth mentioning with the GP-10 that it only operates at 44.1 kilohertz, which could be an issue for some people. Like my primary monitoring interface is locked at 48 unless I go in and totally blast the settings, and I don't really want to do that. But you can't use input and output devices, separate input and output devices with different sample rates unless you start getting into doing device aggregation. So I had to, where is it? Let's have a look. I had to take my regular aggregate, and you can see here it's labeled as the SY-1000, but I switched the GP-10 out and then changed the GP-10 to the clock source so that I can still monitor through here, and then also be able to tap it off to the screen recording software. Okay, so I chose a preset that I'd prepared earlier a few years ago, and basically it was called B standard, so it was like a baritone guitar or down a perfect fourth. It's the same kind of deal here. It's a modeling guitar on one side, and so that's the drop tuning, and then there's a normal pickup on the other side. But I haven't got this configured with panning as I do with the SY-1000. Now, I remember that in the past I've done it, and I think you had to use like a chorus module here and a delay module here or something like that, and then you had to go into these and basically do the panning within them. There's some bug or something, as I recall, with the level pan, and anyway, so it doesn't work properly. But as it turns out, there's not really a huge problem with just setting them both to operate on either channel 1 or channel 2. I mean, I guess it's in stereo, so it's operating on both all the time, but you could set this to output channel 1, and what I did here was configured this so that using control 2 on the device would switch between the modeling and the normal guitar. So you can see up here, modeling guitar, normal pickup, and if I just grab the guitar, you can hear that, like if I play Alright, so that's just fine as is. So this is not about playing, this is about configuring. So modeling guitar, same thing. I've done a Les Paul rip pickup, full volume, full tone. Same on the normal pickup. Oh, that's at 50%. Interesting. I thought that was at 100. Does it make a difference? Definitely hotter. Yeah, okay, well that can be at 100. I had to put a noise suppressor on this side, so it works. So you've got those two guitars coming in, and then of course you've got your regular hex signal coming in onto the strings. Getting a bit of goosey action with this this gate, and I've got it set up here now. I give it a quick test. So basically here everything's the same. I've got the patch level in the middle. I've got those levels are at max, but if we look at the, I'm going to turn that off. These levels are in the middle. It's 0 to 200, so 100 and 100. That's fine. Is there anything else? The GK setting, I had to go in and duplicate the same setting, so that was like the lower sensitivity, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 50. That's pretty much it. So it's operating pretty much exactly the same now as the SY-1000 was. We'll just... Did I turn the infinite sustain on? Okay, so let's have a look. What do we got here? So it's all fine. I'm not sure what's going on with the gate meter here. Can I do something? Just play with it and tweak it a little bit, and yep, that's exactly the same preset. So it sounds fine. A couple of things to note about the GP-10 as a device itself. You can press both the lower buttons on the device and trigger the tuner. But also I accidentally triggered a PC message there, which was not my intention. I guess you've got to be careful with that. Okay, so there's that part, and then you've got control 1 here, which can also send CC 64, I believe. Should be able to send CC 64. No. That's interesting, because this device should be able to send CC11 and also CC64, and it was actually doing it before, so I'm not sure why it wouldn't be doing it now. Okay, well that was ultra bizarre, but for some reason the GP-10 stopped transmitting MIDI. And when I say MIDI, I mean transmitting its CC64 on control 1 and its CC11. You can see moving down there at the bottom left corner of the MG3 interface. So yeah, it transmits CC11 and it also transmits C64. And also, and I've got to be really careful, but is it going to crash? You can use the 2 buttons to activate the tuner, and if I open the GP-10 software application like so, right, we can see that it's been opened there, and if I'm careful it should turn it off again. Now the question is it still going to work with C64? Now CC11 isn't selected here, so yeah, there it is. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go back to the preset that I had before, and we'll just get out there we go. So it works. So a possible application would be just using the volume pedal for the guitar side only. It's not going to 0. There's probably a way to configure that in here. I'm to keep turning this off. It's another bug in the software, if anyone from Boss is watching. Right, so it's in the hardware settings. Calibration, set expression pedal to minimum. Right, press right. Where's right here? Okay, set it to max. Right. Okay, and expression switch threshold is 5, but I think that's a bit hard. I think I have it set on 3 on one of the other Boss pedals I have, so with that should right, we've got the full range now, and if you if you want to use the wah, you can do that too by using the pedal switch on the device, so that's handy. And I think there's probably a way that you can block the sending of PC messages, although I'm not sure what it is, so that if you want to use your tuner, like I was showing before, you can do that without any problem. Okay, there is one way I could do it that I can think of. I could send the GP-10 MIDI to an ICA4 Plus source and block PCs on that. Okay, so I'm gonna open live again. There's a really convoluted way to solve this problem. So I'm going to take MIDI from the GP-10 and I'm going to send it out to where USB 2. Okay. Receive from there. I should get this MIDI pass through without the program changes. Nice. Yeah, so if you look at you can see that my tuner's getting activated and deactivated. It's not messing with the presets. And if we want to put a hold on, we can do that now. Okay, and also this is probably not the best preset to demonstrate it, but okay, so finally I got to patch up where the okay, so like if you're going to use CC11, which is also functioning as a volume pedal inside the GP-10, and you want to send CC11, like I've done here, say off to the filter cutoff filter, and use that as a volume source, you can do that. It's a bit tricky. One-handed. But anyway, I guess the point is you've got CC11 and CC64 from the pedal. Wow, you've really got CC64. No, I don't know. But anyway, there's potential there. I'm not too familiar with this synth yet. It's a new one, so to figure out how to use it. I just want to throw one more thing out there about the GP-10, which I've never heard anybody else mention. And maybe it's a unique characteristic of using this particular device with Mac OS. But if you have a look at my audio settings, the GP-10 has hijacked the position of primary output device. And this to me is really quite strange because I didn't allow it to do that. I didn't tell it to do that. I didn't set it in as the primary device in anything other than in MIDI Guitar 3. And that's not generally how Mac OS works. If I typically I tell this guy that I want the iConnect to be the primary source, and that's that. See, the GP-10 still got the microphone. That's really weird. That's one weird thing about the GP-10. There's another weird thing about the GP-10, and it's a bit, I haven't encountered it for a while, but it just comes to mind now that I'm talking about this problem I'm having here. If you happen to be using a CME Woody Bud, first generation, and if you plug the GP-10 on the same port, on the same USB port as, or USB hub as you have the Woody Bud connected, weird stuff happens with MIDI. One of them breaks. I can't remember which one. I think it breaks the Woody Bud. But anyway, it's a bit freaky. Also, you can see I had some problems there with getting the MIDI controls to actually work. Once they work, they work. It would be really nice if we could tell the device to just turn off the program changes. I can't see anything in the settings that enables us to do that. So just beware. Okay, I just thought it would be criminal of me to not mention that. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the deep dive into using the Boss SY-1000 and or GP-10 to drive the MIDI Guitar 3 Hex Tracker, which is just killer. The developer is just hitting the ball out of the park with this one. I should mention in the last video that I made about the Hex Tracker using the MIDI caster tool that I made a pretty big error where, because the audio settings in MIDI Guitar 3 standalone got reset, and when I reopened the preset, I had not saved the pitch bend range correctly, so I had some pitch issues, tuning issues with driving the polymer synth in Bitwig. Anyway, I noticed that after I noticed it while I did it, but I didn't realize the reason. I thought it was just something to do with the tuning of my guitar, which wasn't that bad. But I've discovered a cool kind of way to overcome the pitch bend range limits of Bitwig, and I will be making a video sometime very soon, probably this week, I'm sure, to explain that and let you know how you can make good use of that to get maximum MPE power out of MIDI Guitar 3 and Bitwig. Alrighty, catch you guys later.